All right. Welcome to a new episode of Real Estate versus Technology Unleashed. We've changed some things up. If you don't already know, no more intro, no more BS. We're just talking head, having fun, and just vibing out. So we're gonna go ahead and bring Dan in. What's up, Dan?
What's happening?
Man, good day, good weather. How's the weather for you?
Raining, horrible.
Really?
Yeah. Welcome to Oregon.
Yeah, Arizona sunshine, beautiful, light breeze. Probably should be outside right now, but I'm excited, man. Today's an interesting guest. Apparently, he is the youngest broker in California. That's pretty crazy. Not to mention, he's a 3x published author, and he's crushing it in what he's doing. I actually seen him in San Diego 3 weeks ago at an investor event, and I'm super excited to have him on. But what's up, bro?
Hey guys, how you doing? Norman, Dan, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Dude, I'm excited too, man. I see you're with Multitaskr and doing some things with ADUs and talking about a lot of head talk videos, talking about what's going on in this market of California, as that's where, you serve. I know you're in San Diego, Orange County, down south is where you're really focusing. And I know they're talking a lot about what's going on with this housing crisis and how you can really take advantage of this ADUs in the backyard. So congratulations, man, to all your success. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. A lot of it is, right place, right time, good mentors, and then just working hard and having all the pieces.
I love it. I'm just curious, so you said good mentors, like how? So if someone's young who wants to get into real estate or do ADUs or write 3 books, I mean, did you have just rock star parents, bro? And they just instilled into you your destiny, or give us some context, man. I'm really curious about anyone out there that is curious themselves, tuning in, and want to hear a little bit of your backstory, bro.
Of course. I'm 23. I wrote my first book when I was 10 years old. Again, a great mentor that really took a lot of the things I was struggling with and helped build my self-esteem. I was really struggling with reading and writing back in the day, and I had one teacher. Exactly. Math was easy because I didn't speak English too well in elementary school, so math was the same in English or in Spanish, but the reading and writing was the tough part. So she pretty much told me, instead of doing the homework that all the other kids are doing, go ahead and just write short stories, right? So I started doing that to kind of fall in love with it. And eventually she took a lot of the stories that I had been writing over the year and sent it to a publishing company, and they ended up publishing my first book without me even knowing I was going to be an author, right? So that was a huge self-esteem boost. From there, fast forward a few years, middle school, high school, my parents never let me work for money. I would see my friends, going and working at a Carl's Jr., Jack in the Box, buying new cars, things like that. And they were like, no, through high school, you're not going to work at all. If you want to work, you're going to work for free, and you're going to go and find people that you want to learn from, right? Because you don't need the money. We're going to provide the food. We're going to provide the housing. You don't need to pitch into the family, for us to be able to live. So if you want to work a summer job, it's going to be for free, and you're not going to get paid for it. So that's what I did for 4 years. In high school, I would work for different people. And the reason they opened the doors is because I came in saying, hey, I just want to learn for 3 months what you do. And after the 3 months, I'll go back to school. And through that time, I would network a bunch. So I worked in politics, I worked in marketing, I worked in sales, I worked in all these other different things, one of which was my senior year in high school, a real estate broker. And I started seeing how much agents actually make. And I was like, hey, this is the perfect way for me to pay for college. So that was the original idea. That's how I originally got started, was if I sell one house per semester, I should be able to pay my entire tuition. And I ended up selling more than that. So at some point, it just clicked that, hey, maybe I do want to do this for a career.
Nice.
Wow.
It's very, very rare that you hear that, right? Like that somebody actually is paying for their college, because that is not a easy feat, right? Financially. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot of going to class, driving in between classes to showings, sitting down at the library, creating marketing and, mailers and going and door knocking after class. And, you know, it was tough. It was tough for sure the first couple of years.
Dude, your parents instilled the servants mentality to really serve and support and not really expect anything in return. And that's amazing that you found like that feed of where you were and what you're doing now, which is super cool. Then how did you even like come about where you're at now doing what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. It was just another podcast like this. Actually, I got invited to be on a podcast, and I was one of the youngest realtors at the time. And without knowing, the CEO, you know, interviewed me, the CEO here at Multitaskr, and after he said, "Hey, I'm thinking of building a brokerage. If you want to come in and be our in-house realtor for now, keep your license where you're at. Maybe 2-3 years down the line, you can get your broker's license and open up that vertical in our company." So that's pretty much what ended up happening.
That's amazing. Talk about opportunities, man. It's like you never know what's gonna happen. One thing can lead to another thing, and then now you're back on another podcast, and that's super cool. And I watching your content and still have your business card. And I like how it's plastic. So I know your partners have the paper one. I was like, okay, this kind of sticks out when I keep it on my desk. But that's super cool. Are you still transacting? Are you still helping clients on that capacity, or just focusing on the one thing?
Absolutely. And a lot of it now has not, we created the systems and processes for our sales team to not have to go out and do the, prospecting. But a lot of what I'm doing now is just referral based, right? Just to keep the relationships going. But I'd say half of my day, if not more, is on training a lot of young guys that want the opportunity, and are hungry, but they don't know where to go or what direction. I think that average age at our company is like late 20s. So wow. Most of them are pretty young and hungry and, don't have too much responsibilities on their hands. So they have extra time to go out and hustle.
That's awesome.
That's interesting. Very, very interesting. So I got a question for you, Dan. So I know that, you're doing the ADU thing, and that's, the Southern California thing that you're really pushing on and developing and growing. Are you seeing ADUs, Dan, in your market? Is that something that also is being utilized to house hack or bring in additional income?
100%. The state passed a law that rezoned R1, R2s to up to 9 units, I believe it was, in order to combat affordable housing and spur infill development. That's what we call it. So in Oregon, it was interesting because in R1, you could only have one house on 1 acre or less. So R1s, R2s was R2s. Obviously, R2 means two units. But now that we're seeing this kind of shift within the city limits of Eugene, Springfield, most of the smaller towns, they're all for providing ADU permits. They're not cheap. I think they're like $15,000 or $16,000. But the county has been a little bit tough in building ADUs and trying to keep up with the cities. So county property, rural property, a little bit harder to get an ADU permit or a special use permit for those types of things. But it's because they're not focused on unit development or infill. It's usually the cities. So that's what we're experiencing.
Interesting. So what does that look like if someone's going to permit in your market, Miguel, as far as like getting permits? Is it around the same pricing, or how does that look and work for anyone who's viewing and listening in right now?
Yeah, the permits are fairly cheap now. So you're seeing a permit anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000, depending on the size that you're building. Anything below 750 square feet doesn't have school impact fees or environmental impact fees, which significantly reduces the permit cost. Any single family residence that has the space and respects the setbacks can have a 1,200 square foot ADU and a 500 square foot junior ADU. And then if you're within, high transit areas, San Diego, most of San Diego is considered a high transit area. You can have, a bonus unit, no parking. There's additional benefits that go out, but every year they roll out new laws that just make it easier and quicker for people to develop. I think the biggest obstacle we've seen is that even though the laws allow you to do these things, the cities still take forever, and even more now, because now there's a big influx of people wanting to do it, that permitting will take anywhere from 6 to 8 months at least, for even just for a garage conversion, you know. So the holding cost for the average owner, it could be a lot.
Yeah. Can you define for those listening what the difference is between a standard ADU and a junior ADU and a bonus?
Sure, absolutely. So a junior ADU is anything under 500 square feet. It either has to be attached to the main house or a conversion of existing square footage. In certain jurisdictions, there's 18 cities within San Diego County. So, like for example, the city of San Diego will allow you to attach the JADU to an existing ADU as well, right? So not just a primary residence. So like caveats.
So if you did like a garage conversion and then you did the upstairs, one could be the junior ADU and one could be the converted garage, which becomes the real ADU.
Correct.
Yep. Got it.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
What are you seeing as far as like everyone's tuning in and they're thinking like junior? Like, what do you see as far as like let's talk like the good side, right? Everyone wants to know like how much money can I make? What does it look like on average as far as, you know, supplementing the income, right? Because I feel like rent now, because of the low inventory and because of the interest rates, it's like, well, let's house hack, right? Let's do something just to take advantage of square footage and potentially just maximize the square footage that I have and be able to make some additional income. So what kind of income are you potentially seeing from testimonials from your past clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is the appreciation, and realistically, it costs the same to build wherever you're building. San Diego has a very big like range of housing costs. I mean, you can have a 1,200 square foot 3-bed 2-bath in a La Jolla area that's selling for over $1 million, and you can have that same 3-bed 2-bath in a further east area that's selling for 600,000, right? So at the end of the day, when it depends on where the client is located, if we even tap into the whole appreciation thing. Because for someone, they could be building and it could be, almost no appreciation, versus somebody else that could be making 2 to 3x on the build. Because again, materials are exactly the same if you're going to build near the beach or if you're going to build, further out, right? As far as the actual cash flow, I mentioned, Norman, when we spoke, we offer unsecured loans that we could potentially fund up to 100% of the ADU. Those unsecured loans have rates normally between 9 to 10%. The reason we use them is because they give us 12 months with no so at the end of the day, they can actually fund their permits, fund the architecture, fund most of the construction without ever having to come out of pocket. Now that the unit built already, that point we kind of look to exit strategies. So mainly like HELOCs. Most people refied in the last 2-3 years. They don't want to touch their 2%, 3% mortgage. So they'll take out a HELOC, pay off the original unsecured loan. And at that point, they're usually cash flowing about $500 to $1,000 per bedroom that they have.
Interesting. That kind of like makes you feel like, well, if they wanted to get financing through you and then have everything built, get a reappraisal. If the appraisal goes then up, they can pull out the HELOC for the difference, pay you guys off, and then it's like a win-win, it sounds like.
Correct. And we're working, hopefully in the next year or year and a half, we should have our own in-house exit strategies as well. Because right now, a lot of it is once those 12 months come due, we're, kind of referring them out to other people to handle the HELOCs or the second mortgage needs.
That's
smart.
No, that's I think there's a lot of strategy around this too, because it's like you can house hack and you can slow flip, I call it, a single family home. But once you add that ADU and create that second stream of income, you have a two unit property now, and the house and the ADU, if it's not owner occupied, becomes basically a duplex in my eyes, right? In regards. Yeah. And I think that allows more investors to get interested or back into single family rentals. In your market, you have beach and a high population, but in my market, no one wants single family home rentals. They're just a bad investment, right? One person defaults, you're going to be covering the mortgage on that property, and they're higher risk, and it's only appreciation. The cash flow is horrible, gross rent multiplier is bad, cap rate's bad, everything's bad. But adding that ADU mix, especially for some of your outlying areas in San Diego, I think that's going to be a huge advantage for investors who are looking to convert maybe some of the single families they have in their portfolio and holding on to them for longer.
Yeah, I totally agree. At the end of the day, I mean, they're popping up left and right. And really the biggest challenge that we're facing is especially homeowners that, that's kind of what we specialize in is homeowners that want to take advantage of this, but have never done it before. That's why we created the process so seamless. If you're an investor and you have your own contractors, realistically, you can probably, get it done cheaper. You have, hard money or something else. We want to lay out the tools for the average homeowner, kind of democratize wealth, give them access to this type of thing. And a lot of these people, their biggest complaint, because they've never been through the permit process, is just how long, you're kind of sitting and waiting. And we offered, I used to work, like I mentioned, in politics. So I worked for the mayor of one of the cities here. And we offered to go in and create a digital dashboard for them and everything else, because we have a tech team. But there's so much red tape to get through it. And I think until the cities kind of get together and really make it a priority, it's going to take a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. I feel like, we own these homes, and then you got property taxes that go up, and then you have various things with insurance going up. And it's like, it's nice to be able to house hack. My wife and I, we talked about it, Miguel, in San Diego, where it's like, we have a good spot in the backyard, which we could have an ADU/pool house. And it's like, well, why not? And then one thing we're looking at, which we're already doing, is Airbnb, because if you can Airbnb or VRBO, then you can be able to maybe 2 to 4x if you're not doing, your mother's not living there, or you're not doing a long-term rental situation. You can make more money off of the short term. So it's interesting. It sounds like it probably takes upwards of a year after permitting and building and everything, just for someone in your market to go from start to finish. What are you seeing?
Correct. Yeah, anywhere from 12 to 14 months is kind of the average timeline.
Wow.
And one of my last questions really is like, are you seeing real estate agents knowledgeable in this? Are you seeing them like struggling to understand the investment side? Because I think so many people just get used to showing houses and selling residential stick-built homes that the investment side is like a completely different, I don't know, it's just a different animal. Like, I'm a big investor, so I get it. I teach my agents, that's the first thing, is how to underwrite properties. But what are you seeing in your market?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Most agents have no clue what's actually going on. That's part of the reason why at a young age I was kind of able to differentiate myself. I've been here with Multitaskr for 3 years, so from age 20 to now. And, especially when I was young, a lot of people didn't take me seriously. But when I was able to talk, and be able to bring something to the table that most agents don't have, that really set me apart. And I think that's why a lot of the agents are signing up on our brokerage in the past couple months, is they also want, something that differentiates them, and they really get into it. I had one agent yesterday. He's like, yeah, I was talking to the agent on the other side, and they asked me if I knew what a HELOC was, because they had never heard of it. I was like, okay, some basic stuff. We actually just launched, though, our Realtor referral program.
Yeah.
Actually, about 3-4 weeks ago, that event that I went to was to get the ball rolling on that. And we're going to be hosting probably 2 to 3 events a month, starting next month, to bring the real estate community together and educate them so they can go out and talk to their clients about what's going on with the ADUs, right? So yeah, our first one is on Tuesday. So we have about 30 or 40 agents that have already signed up to learn the basics, like what can I build, where can I build, what is the cost of building,
what's the ROI too.
That's so interesting. I feel like a lot of agents, like, that could actually be a good opportunity, anyone who's listening, to like a reach back, right? Like, hey, how's things going? Wanted to check in with you. Did you know that there's this opportunity here? How are you liking your house? What are you seeing in the market for you? Because one thing to listen to the news and all the stuff that's being told to us. It's another thing to like reach out to your database, right? I think a lot of agents out there that have extra time on their hands because of the low inventory situation need to go back into their database and go after low hanging fruit. And if anyone who's listening who's in the Orange County area, Miguel's the guy to reach out to, especially if you want to get into in this sector. Because I know you were talking also that really piqued my interest. It's like you could basically build this out and then you could like sell the actual ADU separate from selling the home. Is that something that I remember you talking about on your short form head talk content?
Absolutely. So there's one law that recently got proposed called AB 1033. Obviously, it hasn't passed yet, but I read through it and I was kind of blown away. I don't know how it's going to work, but apparently some cities are already doing it where if you do build the ADU, you can, kind of separate it, sell it off on its own. So who knows? I think it's kind of an extension of the SB 9 law in California as well. But I read that Austin, Texas is doing it already. I believe Portland is doing it. So I don't know, because the way I see it, the ADU itself is usually connected in utilities to the primary residence, at least here. And it doesn't have its own APN number either. So I think they're going to have to be built a certain way in order for that to work.
Are they proposing that it's going to be on its own APN with its own real property, or are they proposing it's going to be sold like a manufactured home in a park, which is basically the structure?
Yeah, it's very bland right now. I think it's in development. It's very vague, but we'll see. I think it's going to probably take another couple of years, just like the ADU laws they passed years ago, but barely now are we seeing the big influx of the effects of those laws that got passed.
That majority of the cost, like in the utilities and just development, is like if you want separate utilities running to the ADU, I mean, you're talking, you got to retrench to the road. And you're talking serious money, but that may be worth it if you can do a subdivide and sell that portion of your postage stamp off. That's huge.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Comment in the comment below, what you know about this if you're tuning in just now, because that's very interesting how that's going to work out. Because I feel like, why not maximize? And if you own the property and own the home, it's like, hey, we'll have this extra space. Because would you want to put a gate up, right? Like you look out your window and you're like, oh, someone's washing dishes in their ADU behind your house. I don't know, it's whatever, I guess.
Hey, if they allow subdivisions, then that's going to increase the tax revenue and it's going to increase the affordability of property, right? That's the biggest thing, is like the reason people buy manufactured homes in parks is that there's nothing under that certain price point threshold. So if they're downsizing or they're, senior living type of situation, they have no options. It's like, do they want to go back into the renter pool or, no. So that's why I like listing a lot of manufactured homes, regardless of what they look like, is because I get a lot of people that are like, yeah, I want to sell my house and move in. I'm like, perfect. Let's list your house too. So yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I love that. I'm right there with you. And that's what we did. We actually pulled out a HELOC to get into those type of flips. And so our father-in-law and us, we, have some fun with it, and you can get in. The barrier to entry for, 55 plus community that's in manufactured home, it's like, we're getting in at like 14.5, 13, I think 13.5. They went lower. It's a little bit of a burn situation, but no big deal. 2011, those things are selling for 150 easy. We could sell this one for 80, 90. Obviously, you have to disclose the fact it was in a fire, but there's so much opportunity out there, which is awesome. Miguel, I'm curious, as we get closer to ending the show, why the books, real estate, now you're doing what you're doing, you're so young, so motivated, so hungry. What keeps the fuel in the tank? What keeps the fuel to fuel your fire and keep moving forward? And why are you so hungry like you are? And what is your end goal, man?
Yeah, I think I'll be completely honest. I'm still in the journey of finding out that why. I think it's a very deep question. I think from a very young age, my parents have always inspired me to kind of dream big. and never think of age as a factor in being able to accomplish something. So a lot of times I kind of just try to do something to prove myself that I can. That's one of the main reasons. Another reason, maybe a very subconscious reason from a very young age, like I said, going and working for no money and spending all my summers doing that, probably came from the fact that my parents run a nonprofit as a hobby. In Mexico, we are literally, my office is 5 minutes from the border. So we go down there a lot, volunteering at orphanages. And the main thing that my dad kind of took on was helping cancer patients. So from a young age, 4 or 5 years old, I would be playing with kids that, literally didn't know to wake up tomorrow, that were my same age. So at the end of the day, I'm just super grateful and perspective. I had dinner with a friend last night who's actually moving out of San Diego, and that came up. Like, we are so blessed, and if I had all these opportunities of health and waking up today, why am I going to waste it, right? So that may be a driving factor as well.
Dude, that's amazing, man. Very admirable. I have to say, you got to call your parents after the show and thank them, because there's so many individuals out there. I'm one of them that just doesn't really have any really good mentorship from, definitely no father figure. Mother was there, raised by women, my aunt, my mother. And so still blessing, right? Straight. I had a foundation, just nothing like what you've had. And it's amazing to see that. And so I'll be interested to follow your journey to see where this inspires to be and to go to. And just for viewers and listeners, because, 3 times published author, like, what are the names of your 3 books?
Absolutely. The first 2 are adventure stories. Like I mentioned, I didn't really know I was going to publish them. They were just for fun. So the first one is called The Glowing Mask in Hawaii. It's based on a trip I took to Hawaii. I added like an Indiana Jones character there. The second one is The Mayan Prophecy, very similar concept, but in Chichen Itza and Mexico and the Yucatan. And then the third one was because I was going and speaking at all these schools about the books. I was traveling across Latin America, across the U.S. Pre-COVID, and one of the principals of one of the schools said, "Hey, great story, but you gave no like action steps for the students to follow, right? They don't know how to do it themselves." So the last book, which I think is the best one, is called Change the World. It's very short. Like I mentioned, I don't really like reading, so I had to make it something that I was, willing to read. And it's kind of like a workbook for high school students to find something that they're passionate about. It teaches them like templates on how to email those potential mentors, how to reach out, scripts on when you go to a job interview, what you're trying to do, and those kinds of things, very applicable things that they can do. And it breaks it down into 5 steps, which is finding a passion, identifying strengths and weaknesses, reaching out to mentors, setting goals, and taking action, right? So that last book, Change the World, if you're early in college trying to find out what you want to major in, or you're in high school trying to figure it out early, that's definitely a book that I would pick up in a non-biased way.
Wow.
Is that a McLaren?
Yeah. So the day I got my broker's license, one of my friends that was a mortgage broker had a McLaren, and he called me up and he's like, "Come pick it up, take it for the week, and just enjoy."
I love it, man. That's cool. Super cool.
Dope. Yeah, I like your BMW as well. And whoever's checking, viewing, watching, check out the episode. Links are down below for Miguel, because definitely feel like they should follow you. And I know we got connected on Instagram, and then because we're doing our San Diego event, and I know that you're out of the country during that time back in October of 2022. And then we saw each other yet again in San Diego, and it was awesome to reconnect with you. And I feel like everything happens for a reason. And it's amazing as far as from what your parents instilled on you, to then you writing these books, to then being able to give back and create a legacy for other people to follow is pretty freaking awesome, dude. So I got to say, very, very inspiring, and definitely intrigued by all your success. And I'll be following along, man. I hope our viewers and listeners will also follow along. And that was great.
Likewise. And thank you so much for having me, Dan and Norman, on the show. I appreciate
Great
it.
to meet you, man. Good luck with everything. Let's keep it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's exciting. You're our second guest with our new, is our next season of Real Estate First Technology Unleashed. So it's nice to just have more of a kind of talking, cordial conversations that can turn into so much more, because I feel like that's how you build relationships, right? So which is very powerful. So well, awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, man. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you, guys.
Later.
Yep. Take care. Have a
Bye.
good one. Make sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.